In this video, we'll learn to multiply whole numbers or integers. So let's start. Let's do 38 times 47. We'll start by multiplying 7 by 8 and then by 3. So 7 times 8, which is 56. So 6, we put down the unit and we carry over the 10. So it goes in the tens column. 7 times 3 is 21 and 5 is 26. So there we have the 2 in the hundreds column. Now we put a 0 down. So why do we do that? What's the reason? Because now we're moving from the units, we're moving to the tens digit. So I'm going to be multiplying 4 by 8 and by 3. But that's not just 4. The value of it is actually 40. So if I do 40 times 8, for example, that is the same as multiplying 4 by 8, which is 32, and just adding that 0 at the end. That's why we put the 0 down here first, and we continue as if this was a unit, so as if it was just 4. So 4 times 8 gives us 32. So I put the 2 down and I carry the 3 over. Now 4 times 3 is 12 and the 3 is 15. Adding these two together, I get 1786. Let's repeat this with another number, or another two numbers I should say. So 59 times 26. So 6 times 9 is 54. So 4 down and 5 carried over. 6 times 5 is 30 and the 5 is 35. Now putting a 0 down because we move into the 20, and multiplying by 20 is the same as multiplying by 2 and adding a 0 at the end. So I've got the 0 down. Now I go 2 times 9 is 18. So 8 down and 1 is carried over. 2 times 5 is 10 and the 1 is 11. Adding these together, we get 4 here, 13, 5, 1. So 1534. There are two things I want to stop at here before I move on and work with larger numbers. One of them is a thing that I mentioned a bit earlier, which was when I multiply two numbers, such as 5 by 30, for example. What I do is I multiply 5 by 3, which gives me 15, and then just add the 0 at the end. So it's 150. Or if I multiply 50 by 30, I multiply 5 by 3, which gives me 15, and then add the 2 zeros. So this is a shortcut, and you're going to find it really useful in certain situations. And it actually links to multiplying by 10, just like you do 5 times 10, for example, and that gives you 50. Because what you've done, you've multiplied 5 by 1, which gives you 5, and you've added a 0 at the end. Now that 0 means making the number 10 times bigger. So 50 is 10 times bigger than 5. Another thing links to making the link between what we have here and what we have here. So When we started, we multiplied 6 by 9 and then by 5. So we ignored the 2 and we input the answer in this row. So 59 times 6 gives us 354. That's the answer to that. Then when we put a 0 down and we move to the 2, we multiplied 2 by 9 and 2 by 5. So 1180 is the answer to 59 times 20. So we've broken down the 26 into 20 and 6. So 59 times 20 and 59 times 6, adding the answers together, will give us 1534. And we can do the same thing with a 59, so we could break it down into 50 and 9. So multiplying 26 by 50 and then 26 by 9, adding the answers together should give us 1534. Which leads me into another method which we call the grid method, and I'm going to use the same numbers to experiment with that. I'll use the same numbers, so 59 times 26. 59 is broken down into 50 and 9 and 26 into 20 and 6. So I'm going to do them on the side and you'll understand why in a second. So I'm going to create a grid with these and I'm going to multiply. So I'll do 9 times 20. And again, remember that easy shortcut. 9 times 2 is 18. Adding the 0 gives us 180. 9 times 6 gives us 54. 50 times 20. 5 times 2 is 10. Add the 0 and the other 0 gives us 1000. 50 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. Add the 0 gives us 300. Now all we need to do is add these together. So we've got 1000, 180, 300 and 54. 4, 13, 5, 1. So 1534, which gives us the same answer as what we had previously. So this is just another method and feel free to use whichever you want. Let's try this once more with the other number, which was, or the other two numbers, 38 times 47. So 38, 30 and 8 times 47, 40 and 7. 8 times 40. 8 times 4 is 32. Adding the 0 gives us 320. 8 times 7 is 56. 30 times 40. 3 times 4 is 12. Adding 0 and another 0 gives us 1200. 30 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21. Adding the 0 gives us 210. So adding all of these answers together, so we get 1200. Add to that 320, 210 and 56. Get 6, 8, 7, 1. So 1786. This is what we call the grid method. And if you want to multiply larger numbers, let's say 338 by 447, So you just need to add the 300 here and the 400 here. Extend the grid and multiply 300 by each of these numbers, multiply 400 by each of these numbers, and then add them all together just like we did for this one. Let's try and complete it. So 300 times 40, 3 times 4 is 12, add the 2 zeros and the 0 there gives us 12,000. 300 times 7, 3 times 7 is 21, add in the 2 zeros, this one doesn't have any zeros. Now 300 times 400, 3 times 4 is 12, then we have 2 zeros there and 2 zeros here, so we get 120,000 here. Now 30 times 40 we've done, 30 times 7 we've done, we need to do 30 times 400, so 3 times 4 is 12, add a 0, add another 2 zeros, 8 times 4 is 32, there is no 0 there, we only have 2 here. Now what we need to do is add the rest of these numbers, because we had this 4. Let's put here the 12,000, 2,000 and 100 and 120,000, 12,000, 3,200. So there we have 6. 2 and 1 is 3 and 5 is 8. 2 and 3 is 5 and 2 is 7 and 1 is 8 and 2 is 10. So 0 down, 1 carried over. 1 and 1 is 2. 4, 6, 8, 11. So 1 down and 1 carried over. 1 and 1 is 2, 4, 5, and the 1 in here. So 151,086. Let's now do the same number but using the column method, the one that we started with. So 338 times 447. We start with a 7. 7 times 8 is 56, so 6 down and 5 carried over. 7 times 3 is 21 and the 5 is 26, so 6 down and 2 carried over. 7 times 3, 21, and the 2 is 23. Now put in a 0 down because I'm moving to the tens, so 4 times 8 is 32, so 2 down and 3 carried over. 4 times 3 is 12 and the 3 is 15, so 5 down and 1 carried over. 4 times 3 is 12 and the 1 13. Now I've finished with the tens here, so I'm going to move into the hundreds. For that reason, because 400 has 2 zeros, I'm going to put 2 zeros here. If I had thousands, I'd put 3 zeros and so on. So now 4 times 8 gives me 32. So 2 down and 3 carried over. 4 times 3 is 12 and the 3 is 15. So 5 down and 1 carried over. 4 times 3 is 12 and the 1 13. So adding these all together, 6, 8, 10, 11, 5, 1. So it's given us the same answer that we had before. Let's just do a final one, 4 digits by 4 digits. So I'm going to do 2,803 multiplied by 7,065. So starting from 5, 5 times 3 is 15, so 5 down and 1 carried over. 5 times 0 is 0, adding 1 gives me 1. 5 times 8 is 40, so 0 down and 4 carried over. 5 times 2 is 10 and the 4 is 14. Now moving to the 6, put a 0 down first because that's 60. 6 times 3 is 18, so 8 down and 1 carried over. 6 times 0 is 0 and the 1 we had, that makes 1. 6 times 8 is 48, so 8 down and 4 carried over. 6 times 2 is 12 and the 4 is 16. We're finished with the 6, or the 60 I should be saying. Now we're moving on to the 0. Now that's the hundredths digit, so I'll be putting 2 zeros down and then going 0 times 3 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 8 is 0, 0 times 2 is 0. You could skip this, but don't forget when we move to the 7, you need to give it 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. Now 7 times 3 is 21. So 1 down and 2 carried over. 7 times 0 is 0 and the 2 gives me 2. 7 times 8 is 56. So 6 down and 5 carried over. 7 times 2 is 14 and the 5 gives me 19. Adding all of these together now, get 5 here, 9, 1, 13, 8, 10, 8, 9, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 19,803,195. I hope this has taught you how to multiply, because multiplication is really needed in everyday life when it comes to dealing with money or doing shopping and so many other cases and scenarios. There are other methods using multiplication as well, so you're comfortable with those. Don't worry about these, but I've just shared 2 of the main ones which are really useful and beneficial if you know them.